The MyPillow guy is very well known for his online commercials, but not as many people seem to know the strange history behind the man. A large aspect of the American dream is the concept of a rags to riches story. Looking at motivational entrepreneur pages online will provide you thousands of anecdotes involving people down on their luck before coming up with an idea, working hard to eventually get rich after years of perseverance. Though most of these tales follow the same format, some are more crazy than originally presented, such as the case of Mike Lindell and his pillow empire. Despite residing in a seemingly small niche, the MyPillow brand and its founder have made quite a name for themselves. When Mike first founded the company, he was a newly divorced college dropout actively battling a drug addiction. It began as a completely independent operation, with Mike hand-sewing the products himself and only distributing with the help of his family. Suffice to say, there were many doubters. This notion was seemingly affirmed as Mike quickly burned through $500,000 he'd invested into the project, a sum he was only able to accumulate after selling several assets and mortgaging his house. Despite all these setbacks, however, Mike was persistent, and after 6 difficult years, his gamble finally paid off in 2011. MyPillow's breakout success came after a series of infomercials that were so well received that at one point they ran approximately 200 times a day. Less than a week after its initial broadcast, the company went from only 5 employees to over 500, as profits reached into the millions. Shortly after, it was crowned the official pillow of the National Sleep Foundation and awarded the Product Concept of the Year by QVC. Mike's journey to the forefront of his industry was a sensation, so much so that a film was even made likening his story to the aforementioned American dream. So that was that. Mike became a role model and had created a line of sleep products used by millions across the world. The thing is, as time went on, many started to see the cracks in this narrative, and became a bit more critical of the man that could be seen smiling on television at all times of the day. Why was this, you may ask? Well, to start off, just like most brands, MyPillow had its critics, namely regarding the product's quality. You see, the greatest accomplishment of Mike's famous commercials were making viewers forget it was an as-seen-on-TV product, but not everyone was a fan. Those who didn't buy into the hype saw the product to be not much more than a standard shredded foam-filled pillow. This mindset was exacerbated by the fact that Mike Lindell was never quick to mention that he had financial ties to the National Sleep Foundation, which had coincidentally given MyPillow their accreditation. This would eventually become the basis for a 7-figure lawsuit, in which a group of district attorneys sued the company over deceptive marketing. The advertising many were critical of included numerous suspicious claims of health benefits the product could provide, which Lindell presented under the guise of being a sleep expert, despite no formal training in that field. The case was settled in November of 2016, and months later, the Better Business Bureau revoked the company's prestige status, citing advertising violations. Even though this controversy stained the brand's reputation, that alone was not enough to stop MyPillow's trajectory. This is in large part thanks to just how much love there was for Mike as a person. For context, Mr. Lindell largely attributes his life of sobriety to being a born-again Christian. He recalled praying one night for God to take away all his desire to do drugs, and just like that, he was blessed. Regardless of how you may feel about that, it was clearly from a place of sincerity. And upon his company's success, Mike dedicated himself to a life of philanthropy, donating pillows to cancer patients, homeless shelters, and even the victims of Hurricane Harvey. As a result, he was still regarded quite highly by the public in spite of the lawsuit. That being said, his religious motivation was only appreciated by the masses when it involved humanitarian causes, but public opinion would soon shift as he became more outspoken on social and political issues. Namely, this story begins to truly get bizarre when Donald Trump enters the picture. We'll learn more about this after a brief word from our sponsor. Traditional boxer briefs that you buy at the store are barbaric and were invented during the Neanderthal era. They often don't fit properly, ride up, and don't give you enough support. The crazy thing is, most men don't know that they can do better. That is where Sheath comes into play. Sheath has a modern ergonomic design intended to prevent skin-on-skin contact for long durations, which can build up in heat and sweat. The product was actually invented by a US Army soldier who came up with the idea during his second tour in Iraq. Traditional underwear were not adequate, which is why he came up with this special design. So if you want to try out this superior undergarment for yourself, click the link below and use code GFM at checkout. Or go to sheathunderwear.com/GFM for 20% off. This is a clothing item you're hopefully wearing every single day, so upgrading might actually change your life. Again, that's sheathunderwear.com/GFM, or just click the link below and use code GFM for 20% off. Despite some odd behavior here or there, for quite a while the story of the MyPillow guy was pretty mundane. Though this wouldn't last. Things really began to heat up in spring of 2019, when Mike made headlines for voicing his support of then-President Donald Trump at that year's Conservative Political Action Conference. While this in and of itself wouldn't be especially notable, it was the actual contents of his speech that led him to receive extra scrutiny. It was here that he claimed that Trump's victory in the 2016 election was a miracle caused by divine intervention.
Now we go back in time to 2016, and I see myself in divine appointments, and one was especially important. Donald Trump invited me to meet him at Trump Tower in New York City. I walked into his office with high hopes on August 15, 2016. I walked out of that office after meeting with him, and I knew God had chosen him for such a time as this. God answered our prayers, our millions of prayers, and gave us grace, and a miracle happened on November 8, 2016.
Many were confused by his implication that God had not only appointed Trump as president, but also intervened to ensure that the two had met. This caused many to go back and reevaluate some of the stories he had told in the past and just how bizarre they often were. For example, in Mike's account of how he conceptualized his famed pillow, he claims that the idea came to him in a dream. This vision caused him to get up in the middle of the night and scrawl "MyPillow" onto the walls of the kitchen and throughout the rest of his house. He was convinced that it was a gift from God and changed his entire life's trajectory to accommodate. On top of this, many didn't seem to appreciate just how serious Mike's dependency on drugs were back in the day. To put it bluntly, he was abusing heavy substances, starting with cocaine before moving on to crack in the late 90s. It got to the point that his own drug dealers had to give him an intervention. He recalled them refusing to sell to him as he had been awake for 19 days straight, even claiming one had to babysit him until he fell asleep. And this continued throughout the early years of the company, only subsiding the day he prayed for help and God answered. Also, a few months before his Trump speech, Mike claimed that business was booming thanks to Trump's tax cuts, stating MyPillow was doing so well they were able to give all their employees a 5 to 10% raise. 2 months after CPAC, however, the company laid off 150 workers. There was speculation over why this had occurred. Those local to the company headquarters claimed their facilities were filled with hundreds of thousands of unsold pillows, citing their free entry world record pillow fight that prior year as proof. The official stated reason, however, was because the company was being restructured in order to compete with Amazon. Pitching an idea known as My Store, it was described as an online marketplace for products from both inventors and entrepreneurs. This would be the first in a series of attempts by Mike to branch out. In line with his previous philanthropy, amidst the breakout of COVID-19, the company announced they would be shifting 75% of their assembly line to producing face masks. These would then be distributed to hospitals. Unlike his other stunts, this move was universally praised. Though his next attempt to combat the crisis wasn't. That summer, Mike began promoting a supposed cure he'd found for the virus, known as oleandrin. Despite being an unproven, potentially dangerous treatment, he credited it as saving his family and friends' lives, and even went on to recommend the faux cure to Trump. At first, many were confused as to Mike's sudden interest in the drug, until they realized he held shares in a company that produced it. He was bluntly confronted about this conflict of interest on national television. As time went on, Mike would continue to double down on his political grandstanding, notoriously helping post bail for shooter Kyle Rittenhouse, sparking backlash on social media. But as crazy as it might sound, it wasn't until the conclusion of the 2020 presidential election that he truly began to lose his composure. As stated before, Mike believed Trump's initial presidential term was the result of divine power. So as you may guess, he wasn't very eager to accept the results when Joe Biden won both the popular and electoral vote in 2020. As the results came in, he went on the internet to publicly voice dissent, claiming the election had been stolen and accusing equipment manufacturers of fraud. He wrote on Twitter, "Dominion machines stole millions of votes from Donald Trump. As promised, all the evidence is coming out. Donald Trump will be our president for 4 more years. We all need to pray that everyone gets to see all the evidence. Donald Trump won in a historical landslide." Mr. Lindell became such a large proponent in the spread of this conspiracy that he was personally sent a warning from Dominion Voting Systems lawyers, threatening legal action for defamation. Rather than back down, he instead met with Donald Trump and brought notes that included the words martial law. It appears to have been a proposal of actions needed to preserve the sanctity of the Constitution. While up until this point, most had tolerated his various shenanigans, this was seen as a step too far. Upon this news breaking, MyPillow was subjected to a boycott by retailers that resulted in their products being dropped by Kohl's, Bed Bath & Beyond, and 18 other stores. Interestingly enough, some didn't cite the controversy for why they pulled it from shelves, instead stating that they discontinued a number of unperforming items, including the MyPillow product line. Mike estimated himself to have lost approximately $65 million as a result of this. The financial loss didn't deter him though, as he continued to campaign on Twitter with his ordeals, leading to both his personal and MyPillow account getting suspended. He even went on to promote the conspiracy yet again when being interviewed on cable television.
Can I ask our producers, can we get out of here, please? I don't want to have to keep going over this.
Actually,
we at Newsmax have not been able to verify any of those allegations that you're...
Mike, hold on a second. Everybody hold on a second. Mike, hold on 1 second. Let's talk a little bit about just what is happening overall in terms of censorship of...
Cancel out my company and myself. In this country, it's cancel culture.
Finally, after giving Mike a chance to back down, on February 22nd, 2021, Dominion Voting Systems filed their $1.3 billion defamation lawsuit against him. They posited that he platformed claims of voter fraud in order to boost sales, noting that their marketing campaign included promo codes such as Fight for Trump, leading to an increase in the company's sales from 30% to 40%. Whether or not they were correct with these claims has yet to be seen, though many question if his behavior was actually to sell more products considering the damage it had done. In response, Mike simply stated that he looked forward to them suing as he could finally be proven right in the court of law. Even in spite of these ongoing legal troubles, Mike remained characteristically persistent. Just a few weeks later, he announced the launch of his own social media site titled Vocal, a name that reflected his free speech values. He told journalists that it was all about being able to be vocal again and not to be walking on eggshells. Unfortunately, its title was hastily changed after realizing its name conflicted with a pre-existing trademark. Now known as Frank, the platform officially launched on April 16th. Despite hailing itself as a bastion of open conversation, Mike vowed to ban posts taking the Lord's name in vain. The actual premiere itself was a disaster, going down quickly due to an outage and being replaced with livestream. Regardless, Mike dubbed it as an epic success, noting it received over 2 billion requests across the first 2 days it had gone live. Because of all these headlines, Mike's life has become seen as a source of entertainment for many, with him on one occasion financing a pro-life film that takes place in an abortion clinic. On top of this, others watch all of his live streams and interviews to grab the best bits when he has an outburst or says something particularly odd.
All the evidence I have, everything is going to go before the Supreme Court, and the election of 2020 is going bye-bye. It was an attack by other country, communism coming in. I don't know what they're going to do with it after they pull it down, but it's
hang on a second.
Donald Trump will be back in office in August.
On another occasion during a broadcast, a man successfully prank called the show claiming to be Donald Trump, before they discovered it was a troll.
Hello, yes, I have Mr. Trump on standby. Are you ready?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir. Hello, everyone.
We have the president here, our real president, everyone. Hello, Mr. President.
MacronShow.com, bitches. MacronShow.com.
Okay.
All right.
I
Sorry,
guess that
folks.
wasn't. I guess that was. You see what they're doing? They're attacking us. They're attacking us, and this is what. I mean, that even came up. They're attacking into our phones. It came up that it was a legitimate number.
Call.
And that leads us to current day, with many unsure what the MyPillow guy will do next. With a vast net worth, it's clear he has the ability to fund many of his endeavors. But even with that being said, some have become genuinely concerned for his well-being. At the end of the day, we'll just have to wait and see what happens next in the ever-changing saga. So there you have the story of the MyPillow guy, and while a lot of people think he'll be going bankrupt soon, you also have to realize that he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, so we'll just have to wait and see. And with that thought, I think I'll end the video here. So until next time, thanks for watching.